Question is, will we join the young people who are on the streets and help them to carry on freeing our people? Thank you very much.
Dr. King said some years ago, you can't call yourself a leader if you're walking and nobody's behind you. I think one of the greatest leaders of the 21st century turned around and saw over 1 million people standing behind him. Would you help me thank God for Minister Louis Farrakhan? Regrettably, black people are the only people who don't know how to celebrate their leaders. When our leaders are alive, we run their names through the street, and after they're dead, we name the street after them. But I want Minister Farrakhan to know we stand behind him 1 million strong while he's yet alive with breath in his body. In the book entitled The Rebellious Life of Rosa Parks, it talks about how it is she was not just a secretary, but she was really a sister soldier. And in the first chapter of that book, it talks about how it is that Montgomery thought it was a cosmopolitan city. And because they believed they were a cosmopolitan city, they refused to put up signs that said blacks only and whites only. No blacks allowed. It's almost reflective of what Booker T. Washington said: when you train a slave, you don't have to show them the back door. They'll go to the back of the house and find one. And so the African Americans in Montgomery at that time, nobody had a sign up telling them to go sit in the back of the bus. They were trained without a sign. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are not confused. For them to take down the Confederate flag does not mean we've got justice. It's just a sign of what it is that we're dealing with. Jesus admonished the disciples, "O generation of vipers, can you not see the signs that are in front of you?" We're dealing with the signs that are in front of us. The signs that we can, in fact, live in an hour where America doesn't mind if you change your sex, but they got a problem if you love your black skin. Can't you see your sign? You don't see the signs of when it is that young African Americans in Baltimore protest for liberty and justice for all. They're called thugs. But if a white boy in South Carolina shoots up a black church, they say he's mentally unstable and stop at Burger King. Can't you see the signs? You don't see the signs that they will kill Michael Brown in Ferguson and leave his body there for 4.5 hours. And without dignity, they won't even cover his body. But we have, in fact, assembled from Ferguson and Staten Island, from Baltimore and from Cleveland, to say to Minister Farrakhan that this generation sees the signs. And unlike the Negroes in Montgomery, we ain't going to the back of the bus. We've decided to buy the bus company. When you look across this church and see Muslims and Christians sitting together, when you look across this church and see brothers and sisters sitting together, white supremacy is in trouble because we have loaded our weapon, which is black unity. And when black people come together, we will turn America upside down and put it in its rightful place. On December the 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks got on that bus where she was supposed to be in the back of the bus but paid the fare of those who were sitting up front. She paid the exact same price. And we're coming to Washington, D.C. on October the 10th to let U.S. Congress and the Senate and the President know we've paid the price. God of our weary years and God of our silent tears, we paid the price after we raised your white babies. We paid the price. After we built Washington, D.C., we paid the price. After you killed our sons, our husbands, and raped our mothers and daughters, we paid the price. When it is we paid the price, there's not been more patriotic people than black people in America. We were the first ones to die for this country. Over 5 million black bodies at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. We paid the price. You talking about you gonna take back this country. Who you taking it from? The Native Americans? We paid the price. "20 years ago, when it is that we assembled here in the nation's capital, 1 million strong black men who are committed to turn the tide of this nation, to turn what it is that America said about our black men. We came 1 million strong, but now 20 years later, it's not men who are just coming, but the whole family is coming. Our children are coming. And the unsung heroes, America, you didn't want us to open up this can, but the black women are coming. And when black women come, we can't lose. When black women come, we gotta have victory. "20 years later, we're assembling on October the 10th so that America will understand that we will not be swept away on a reservation. You can't buy us with a casino. You can't think we just gonna go away. This land belongs to us as much as it belongs to you, and more than that, probably more to us than to you. There would not be free enterprise or capitalism if it were not for black people. There would not be a stock exchange if it were not for black people. Dr. King said we came to cash a check for those funds that were not in fact available. That bank closed down. I can't even trust the bank. We come into the ATM, we want the money to come out immediately for what it is that we've done. We are not going to roll over. We're not going to play dead, because we've come 1 week after they shot up an AME church in Charleston, South Carolina. A week later, we in an AME church in Washington, D.C. And we came to tell every racist, white supremacist, we don't die, we multiply. We gotta get justice or else. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the only one who could have assembled us in this hour. Our parents' generation hoped and prayed that they would have been able to see Martin and Malcolm together. But this generation is favored by God, that Christians are going to walk with the Nation of Islam, and we ain't going to let nobody turn us around. It's a new day for black America. October 10th is the day that we assemble on that sacred mall. But even more important than October 10th is October the 9th. On October the 9th, we are invading the U.S. House to lobby to every congressperson and every Senate, not just about marching, but we got to change some laws. This is not going to be a warm and fuzzy moment. This is going to be a moment where we've got to come to the table. My grandmother told me if you don't have a seat at the table, you on the menu. And we refuse to be eaten alive when we've got a lot at stake. So tell every congressperson, every senator, strong black people are coming to Washington, D.C., and we are coming not to sell t-shirts. We are coming to change the law and to change Constitution. If you are strong black people, make some noise for justice or else. Rosa Parks sat on that bus. And when she sat on that bus, the driver saw white people get on the bus and told her to move to the back. 3 other African Americans who were sitting up front with her moved to the back. But Rosa Parks, issuing out the original gangster rap music, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. She stayed on her seat. And that coward bus driver got off the bus. There were no cell phones back then. And walked to the corner and called the police. And the police came and asked that driver, what do you want us to do with her? You want us to get her off the bus or you want to arrest her? And that arrogant white supremacist bus driver was not satisfied with just getting her off. He wanted her arrested. Mr. Louis Farrakhan, in prayer and conviction, made up in his mind this march different than 20 years ago. We are, in fact, giving a declaration and an ultimatum, justice or else. I want to say to runaway slaves, October 10th, don't come to D.C. This ain't the time for you to be scared. But you got to be prepared to put everything on the ground so our children will be able to have liberty and justice for all. This ain't the time for you to run away. And they said to Rosa Parks, get up off your seat or else. And what they said to Rosa Parks is what we're going to say to America. On October the 10th in Washington, D.C., give us one of them seats or else. For the last 2 presidential cycles, black people hand-delivered the presidency to the Democratic Party. And they've not made any concessions for us going into the 2016 election. Fannie Lou Hamer said, we have no permanent friends, we got permanent interests. So all of those who are running, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we are no longer looking for symbolic victory. We want substantive victory. And we need to know whether you are Democrat or Republican, do you have an agenda with black people and Latino people at stake and at heart? And if you do not, or else. I want to remind all the elected officials who called our young black babies thugs, those people you call thugs, our babies will be registered to vote. So either you give an apology or else. I want to remind all of those who have been taking black dollars but will not make black investments that if in fact you do not give us a seat at the table or else. This is not the time for us to play church. It's the time for us to be the church. And we've got to lift up our heads, not as beggars, not as welfare worshipers, but just like Freddie Gray, we going to look the system in the eye and say, ain't I a man? Ain't I a woman? Or else. It doesn't matter whether you live in Ferguson, Sanford, Cleveland, or Los Angeles. We are all coming to Washington, D.C. with a clear message. Business as usual is no longer acceptable. America, please put yourself on high alert. We are not terrorists, we're citizens who have been terrorized. And you upset because Obama used the word nigger when you've been calling them that for 6 years. At this point, we got to rise up and say, or else. Nobody is going to be afraid. Nobody is going to run. Nobody is going to second guess our conviction. But to the entire United States of America, black people are here and we ain't going nowhere. Recognize us or
sound like y'all ready.